Hello friends, welcome to Tarun IS. Today we will be discussing editorial analysis from the Indian Express of 29th of November 2022. So let's start with the editorial. You can relate it with the topic of General Studies paper 3 and General Studies paper 2. The editorial is related with the land DBT benefit transfer and the tenancy. Alright, so we would be discussing that whether the direct benefit transfer has helped the tenant farmers or not, and we would see that who are the tenant farmers and what is the land holding and the operational land holding scenario in India, and how we can improve the agriculture and how the tenancy can be tackled with the new schemes, etc, etc. So this is the article which has been written by Harish Damodaran. I have taken this from the explained page of economics of Indian Express. All right. So before we start the DBT concept, we must first understand what is the subsidy. So if I simplify the definition of subsidy, then basically subsidy is a sort of a help which is given by the government to the farmers. We are talking about agriculture subsidy here. So subsidy is basically any sort of welfare measure or any sort of help which is given by the government. The help can be direct or it can be indirect. All right. So therefore subsidy can be direct subsidy and it can be indirect subsidy. So indirect subsidy, how farmers are given indirect subsidy. For example, they are given free electricity. All right. They are given free water usage, etc, etc. So this falls under indirect subsidy. And indirect subsidy can also be of two types. There can be input subsidy. So how we say that there is input subsidy? For example, we have fertilizers. Let's take the example of urea, which is the most demanded and the most common fertilizer used by the used by the farmers. So urea is the most common fertilizer used. Now, the price at which farmers buy urea, um, it is very much low as compared to the market price of urea. So, therefore, the government is actually paying the industries who are preparing urea for the agriculture purpose, so that they lower their urea price, and the price at which the farmers are going to buy urea will be low, right? So this is indirect input subsidy. Government is not directly giving cash or any help directly to the farmer. Rather, the government is actually paying to the industries or the manufacturing units who are preparing urea. So indirectly farmers are getting benefit because they are buying urea at a lower price. So this is indirect subsidy. Indirect input subsidy. Input means something that goes on into the agriculture. Output subsidy would be different. Output subsidy will be like export subsidy, etc, etc, because that is given on the outcome of the outcome of the agriculture, that is the crop which is produced. So right now we have discussed the direct subsidy, indirect subsidy. Now let us see the direct subsidy. Direct subsidy is something which is directly given to the farmer. For example, the direct benefit cash transfer. DBT, it became popular with the advent of the Jam Trinity. And what is this Jam Trinity? It is Aadhaar, it is Jan Aadhaar, and this mobile. It is Jan Dhan Yojana. Jan Dhan Yojana, the Prime Minister Jan Dhan Yojana for financial inclusion, that everybody will be eligible and everybody will have the access to the bank accounts, to the banking sector of the country. So that is Jan Dhan Yojana. Right, Jan means people, right, and Dhan means the money. So Jan Dhan Yojana. Then we had the Aadhaar. Every person can access their bank account with the help of the Aadhaar also. The Aadhaar enabled payment services, and of course the mobile. So this Jan Dhan, this Jam Trinity helped the farmers gain the direct benefits. And so direct cash transfer became popular, and the government started to directly put money into the bank accounts of the farmers. So direct benefit cash transfer is there. For example, the PM Kisan Yojana. For example, the PM Kisan Yojana. Now this is direct. This is directly being given to the farmers, 6,000 rupees in three installments. This is what the PM Kisan is. Now, let us talk about what the issue that writer wants to raise here. The first thing is, writer says that many of the economists, they actually advocate for the conversion of the agricultural subsidies into the direct income support. And agriculture subsidies, for example, the input subsidies such as fertilizers, power, water at below cost, or the output subsidies, that is procuring crops at above market prices. Output subsidy, how? For example, FCI, the Food Corporation of India, and also the State's Department and the state, this Fair Price and State PDS Department, uh, they do procure crops from the farmer at a price which is a little above the market price. Generally, so MSP at which the FCI is mandated to procure crop from the farmer is basically a minimum support price. Minimum. That means the government can raise it further. So the writer wants to say that economics do advocate of conversion of the agricultural subsidies into the direct income support, and such support in the form of the direct benefit transfer on a per acre basis. Now, depending upon how much land a farmer has, the subsidy shall be given. That means, for example, if the government is paying 1,000 rupees per acre, and if the farmer has, let's say, 2 acres of land, because this is on an average, the operational land holdings in India. In fact, 2 is a little more. According to the agriculture census of 2015 to 16, the operational land holding in India is 1.04 hectare. That means, on an average, a farmer has 1 hectare of land. So, if per hectare of land 2000, let's say 1000 rupees is given, so this is what will be counted as direct benefit transfer, right? And also it is a crop neutral. No matter what a farmer grows, sugarcane, wheat, rice, etc., etc., it will be given to the farmer, and therefore it will not cause any distortion in the input and the output markets, right? So it will not cause any distortion. However, according to the writer, there is one limitation with the DBT scheme, such as the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi, the Telangana's government's Raitu Bandhu. Raitu means the farmer and Bandhu means the friend of farmer. Andhra Pradesh Raitu Bharosa, they do not reach to the tenant farmer, because if a subsidy is being given per acres of land, then how would it reach to the farmer? You're getting my point. Because this tenant farmer is not a landowner. Tenant farmers work on the farm. And there are another type of farmers which are called as the leasy farmers. These are the farmers who take land on rent, and then they cultivate that land, they pay the rent. So there are these kind of farmers also. However, these farmers will not receive the direct benefit transfer because the land is not in their name in the land records. So this is what the writer has highlighted. So tenant farmers, those who undertake cultivation on lease land, they take land on lease and they cultivate it and they pay the rent, right? For example, lease has been taken for 10 years, for 12 years. That for 12 years I am going to cultivate this land, and whatever that your share would be, I would give it to you. So this is how it is. So according to the writer, none of the schemes covers the tenant farmers. So, therefore, what we require is the tenancy reform. However, post independent, India did embark on a path of tenancy reform, on land reform. However, they were not very much successful, because land in India is not just for the economic status, but it is also a social status to have a land. Not just to have a land, but to have a big land. So that is the reason why land, it became a huge challenge when it comes to having social security, and also the redistribution, more correctly, redistribution of the of the land. All right. Now, according to the writer, there are some left out beneficiaries from all these schemes. The PM Kisan scheme provides an annual income support of 10,000 per acre, again to all farmers who own land without any size limit. The size limit was reduced. I mean, there was no size limit. Under the YSR Raitu Bharosa, this is this is the scheme of Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh has Raitu Bharosa and Raitu Bandhu is Telangana. There was one more scheme by the from the Odisha government by the name Kalia. So you can go and look for this scheme also. Under Raitu Bharosa, farmers are paid 13,500 per year, which includes 6,000 through PM Kisan, and Andhra Pradesh government top it up with 7,500 rupees. The exclusion of the tenant farmers from income support and also the zero or low interest loans, the crop insurance, the disaster compensation, and other agriculture related scheme is significant, giving the rising trend of owners no longer directly cultivating their lands. So now the writer wants to raise another issue, which is the first issue is the exclusion of the farmer. The second issue is that many of the land owning farmers, they are switching their employment, so they are no longer cultivating their land. So therefore we do require a scheme, or we do require a welfare measure that covers these tenant farmers, which are non land owning, but they are the actual tillers or actual cultivators, right? So now let us talk a little about the data which has been given by the writer. The National Statistics Office Situation Assessment of Agricultural Household Survey 2018 and 19. It talks about that in rural area, uh, on leased lands, there were 17.3% out of the total estimated operational land holdings, that means which is being cultivated in rural India, they were on leased land. So out of all the operational land holdings, 17.3% they are on lease. The share of such leased in lands is in the total areas which is used for agriculture production was 13%. The National Statistical Office previous survey for the year 2012 to 13 and for the year 2000 for the financial year 2002 to 2003 revealed the shares of leased in holdings at only 13.7% and 9.9% respectively. That means there has been a increase. There has been an increase in the percentage of the land which is being cultivated on lease. So this is one point, right? So this is the data which has been given by the writer. So this is the data for the state-wise tenancy. State-wise tenancy. If you look at the percent in Andhra Pradesh, which is giving this Raitu Bharosa scheme, sorry, Raitu Bharosa scheme. So Pradesh, in Andhra Pradesh, the percent of tenant holding is 42.4%, right? And the percent area which has been leased is 36.4. Look at the situation in Orissa, it is 39%, and the percent area which has been leased in is 31.3 percentage. All right, and if we look at the all India situation, it is 17.3%, and the percent area which has been leased is 13%. So we can conclude three important points from here, that in agriculture scenario, the first point is that there has been an increase in tenancy, right? The second point here, now you can relate it with your another topic of general studies paper 3, that is employment, issues related with employment. Now the second observation is quite important here, and interlinking with the issues related with employment and unemployment is because that people, especially the land owning farmers, they are shifting their employment, right? That is the reason why the percent of tenant farmers is increasing. If we compare to the last survey of the year 2000, 2002 to 2003, this financial year, if we compare the financial year from here, that means in these years, there has been an increase in tenant farmer. And the third point that we can conclude from this article is that none of the schemes, whether they are provided by the union government or they are provided by the state government, for example, the Raitu Bandhu scheme, the Raitu Bharosa scheme, and the Kalia scheme of the Odisha state government, they do not cover the tenants farmer or the leasee farmers, right? And by schemes, I mean not only the direct benefit transfer scheme but also the crop insurance scheme. For example, let's take an illustration of a situation where there is a crop damage. Now, where this tenant farmer go? Because tenant farmer now is in a problematic situation, because he or she, let's count the female farmers too, he or she, they do not have access to the banks for their credit, they do not have access to the farmer credit. The second point, that they do not have access to the crop insurance, so how they are going to pay their rent as well? So this is why in agriculture in India, agriculture is no more a profitable employment or a profitable sector. And the GVA also, according to the agriculture sector, has been decreasing and currently stands approximately at 16%, whereas the share of the service sector is increasing and stands more than 60%. And the manufacturing sector, which we aim to increase it to 25% by the year 2025. This is the objective of the Indian government, right? So if we look at the scenario, then agriculture is no more a profitable sector. So therefore the percent or the number of the farmers whosoever is involved in agriculture should benefit, should have a high income security, and social security should be there. So this should be our objective, or this should be our goal, right? So this is what the tenancy scenario is statewise. I have described it to you, and you can even quote it in your mains answer. If you have been asked about any question related with agriculture, then this data can be quoted. And the operational land holding in India, which is total estimation, is 101.98 million, and on an average a farmer holds 1.04 hectare. That means approximately 1 hectare of land is there. 80 percentage, more than 80 percentage of farmers are small and marginal farmers. That means the productivity and the profitability of the agriculture land is low. All right, so these are the side issues that we are discussing, but the main issue is about the DBT. That what the economic expert says, that convert all subsidies into DBT, it will not be highly profitable unless and until we modify or reform the schemes that are there, and make them more holistic, covering all the types of farmers. So state-wise tenancy ratio also we discussed. So while the NSO surveys points towards a steady increase in the tenant farmers who typically pay fixed cash rent or share of produce to the owner, these would perhaps be underestimated because farm tenancy agreements are largely oral. Now if in India we see the situation that is being presented to us by the writer, is that in India we have this oral agreement. So orally it is decided that I am going to lease this land to you for 6 years, let's say, and there is no certificate or there is no formal or legal agreement. So therefore we do require what? The tenancy reform, and we have to recognize, we have to have a legal way to ensure that the tenancy of a farmer is recognized, and based on the tenancy agreement or the based on the tenancy certificate, etc., howsoever the state government or the union government decides, the banks should give loan to the tenant farmer. They should have access to the formal credit, they should have access to the schemes, because they are the actual tillers or cultivator. So this is what the writer is trying to say, right? So statewise tenancy we discussed. Now let's move on to the exclusion errors. So what do we mean by exclusion errors? For example, DBT, and how the government is going to provide DBT. The only solution that the government has right now for all the situation or all the problem is Aadhaar. But Aadhaar is a resident based certificate or a resident based card. So any resident of India is given or issued Aadhaar. It's not a citizenship. Aadhaar is residency based. So this is one problem that Aadhaar has. However, DBT is given on the basis of Aadhaar, right? So the better idea of the cost of exclusion can be had from Andhra Pradesh, probably, which is, India's most DBT advanced state. Between June 2019, according to the writer, and October 2022, the government had transferred 176,500 crore. What does it mean? 1,76,500 crore rupee to some 7.37 crore people under the 26 DBT schemes that are currently being run by the state government of Andhra Pradesh. They are mainly named after, after the chief minister of the Andhra Pradesh and the his late father, that is YS Rajashekara Reddy. Target not just this is no need to write, no need to focus on the name of the political leaders. In fact, no need to even write in your answer name of any political leader belonging to any political party. You have to be political neutral. So don't write any specific name of any person. In fact, you should not be even writing Narendra Modi. You should be addressing the Prime Minister of India. Write it this way. So target not just the farmers, but also the women farmers, the senior citizens, the school children, unorganized workers, etc., etc. So Andhra Pradesh government DBT schemes such as Raitu Bandhu, which also includes the free crop insurance, the input subsidy, technically it covers the tenant farmers. Technically it covers, but the reality, according to the writer, the practical situation, however, would be different. So, the Jagan government had enacted the Andhra Pradesh Crop Cultivators Right Law in August 2019. It provides for the insurance of the Crop Cultivators Right card, that is CCRC cards, to person cultivating the land of owners under agreement of 11-month validity. Now, this is an important fact which can be quoted as a case study, in your answer, that how the Andhra Pradesh government is basically recognizing the agreement and countersign it is then countersigned by the village revenue officer. All right. So these cards they entitle the leasee cultivators to benefits such as the state DBT scheme, besides being sufficient for obtaining the crop loan from the banks. So this is one case study that can be presented in the mains answer. So now how can we fix the problem? The first is we do require the tenancy reform, and in India, when agriculture sector is seeing the situation such as tenancy and the reverse tenancy, leasing according to the writer can help both the tenants and the reverse tenant farmers. However, there has to be a legal mechanism there has to be a legal mechanism to recognize these leasing agreements. The village revenue officer should be mandated with the responsibility of giving certificates to the or having a legal document to the agreement which is signed by the two parties, the land owning farmer and the tenants. All right. So that way, if the lease agreements they are recognized, all the farmers shall have access to all the welfare programs being run by the union or the state government. And according to the writer, when the new government comes into the picture, or when they form the ruling government, they should reform these they should be able to fix these problems in the tenancy. So these were the views of the writer. The writer had presented us with some of the data, and we tried to conclude some of the points from the article as well. I hope you understood this. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching Tarun IS. If you'd like to download the PDF, you can download it from our Telegram channel. The link will be given in the description below. Have a nice day.